Hey everyone, and welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I've got an outstanding guest for you guys today, Brandon McDonald. This one's been a couple years in the making, to be honest with you. You've been busy. You've got a lot of stuff going on, but Brandon does everything from real estate to archery. Loves tinkering. He's got tons of other things going on in his life as well, along with the Mere Mortal Archery company that he started a few years ago. And so, but with that being said, Brandon, for people that don't know who you are, who are you?
First of all, when the countdown started on the screen, I instantly wanted to stand up and just moon everybody. Like that was my first thought. Let's just start out that way. So I guess like most people, if anybody knows who I am, I'm a guy with no qualifications, but I had a camera. So I started filming myself and I started making YouTube videos. And the whole goal was basically I wanted to learn how to film my own hunts. And I figured that that would be the easiest way to do it would be to start basically learning how a camera and lighting and editing and all that stuff works. And it wasn't just buy a camera and go on hunts. I feel like you've got to learn the tools before you throw yourself into an environment like that. So I thought, well, I'll start a YouTube channel and I want to learn more about archery and the physics of archery and the flight of the arrow and all those cool things. So the other reason that I did it was to get to basically network with people because I knew if I had a camera, I would get invited to go do things for other people with that camera. And as the YouTube channel has slowly, progressively grown over time, I've gotten cool opportunities to talk to people like you. So it was twofold. And then obviously, started the Instagram as kind of a dual thing, follow all the cool hunter stuff on Instagram and watch reels and stories and waste too much time there. But that's kind of who I am, man. Just a zero qualifications dude with a camera who started a YouTube channel.
Yeah, there we go. And I love that. There's such a low barrier to entry when it comes with YouTube, but there's there's good and bad to that. And I think you've
For
done
sure.
a very good way or taken it a very good way as far as like putting information out there, but also making it very clear. Like you just started off with, I don't have any qualifications. I just like to mess around with things. And it's the other people that are like, oh, I'm an expert and no one knows their background. And, they're like, oh, you need to do this and that. And people take that to the bank and then end up going backwards, whether it be in archery or life in general. And that's the problem. But I love that you put it out there. You're taking criticism and feedback and all of that and getting better at your craft. And that's awesome. It's funny because very much like yourself, I started the podcast because I didn't want to do all the filming stuff. I knew what it took to edit and do all of that stuff. And that was not for me, but I like to talk to people. And so I was like, why not? I get to talk to cool people. Cause if I just call people like you up or someone, getting the phone number, first of all, is not easy. But second of all, being like, hey, can I steal an hour of your time? Be like, who are you? But if you have the podcast, be like, yeah, sure. So that's
First
how
of
it
all,
started.
I would have given you my phone number. I wouldn't have had a problem with that. Little do people know, my cell phone number has been on my Instagram since I started it. And I'm going to take it down now because I feel like this will explode. But I've been meaning to do it forever anyway. But literally, I've had two people in the history. My cell phone number is at the top of the page. There's a button you can push call on. When we were at Total Archery Challenge in Utah, I posted, hey, I'm going to go to this Chinese restaurant and I'm going to have dinner. And I'm sitting there at the bar, my phone rings with an unknown number, and I answer. And the kid goes, "Oh my gosh, you answered your phone!" And I was like, how'd you get my number?" He was like, "It's on your Instagram." I was like, "This is awesome. I'm just gonna leave it up there and see what happens." And I feel like what's happened is I've ended up on all these lists of these like horrible, like, "Hey, do you need health care? Did your car's extended warranty? All those kind of freaking things." So
Yep.
I've been meaning to take it off. Now I will. Now I will.
No, that's awesome. No, I had no idea. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny that, again, you take the idea of getting a camera, one to self film, which I carried a camera around on one just like weekend mule deer, nothing even trophy, just up here by my house hunt. And I was like, nope, I'm not, I I can't do that. That's a lot of work to carry around a
It,
camera and self
it
film.
adds it literally adds it's like the mental bucket of hunting. It literally adds an entirely different bucket.
Mm-hmm.
It doubles how difficult it is. I
Mm-hmm.
think that once you start doing it, some people hate it, but for me it was important because I wanted to capture the memories I got off an elk hunt with my brother-in-law, and my wife was like, "Let me see pictures." This was 5 or 6 years ago, and we
Mhm.
looked through. We were like, we literally did not take one picture, not
Yep.
one. We didn't take any video. We didn't do anything, and I was like, "That's so crazy. This has to change." So that was kind of why I started. But I will say, like, one Colorado elk hunt, climbing across all the deadfall and having
Mhm.
the bow in one hand and the camera and the tripod in the other hand, I was so tempted to just be like, I'm going to leave the camera down here. I just don't care. Like, I'm not carrying this extra 15 pounds worth of crap with me. I'm just not doing it after, 3 hours of climbing across waist high crap. So it is definitely, it is definitely challenging. But when you get something magic, like every time I go out, I'll get something that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was going to be that good. You get a bunch of crap too, but the to have the memories when I'm laying in bed as an old man, be able to watch them back. I'm
Yeah,
excited about that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, I just and phones have come so far, and
yeah,
I'm the one that I love to be in the back of the group, and I always end up getting the good shots because I'm back there. It's cool hiking over. Come up over a ridge. You got the sunrise. You got the sunset. Things like that going on, and it's a little. I won't lie. It's a little frustrating sometimes because like we'll get done with shooting tack, and I'm like, hey, let's exchange photos, and I've got like 150 photos, and I go to airdrop them, and they're like, yeah, I'll send you some too. I'm like,
yep,
hmm. And it's like out of focus and like
yep, yep.
it is. So now I'm like, I'm that guy that actually I'm like, hey guys, can you get this picture? And can you please like stand right here, do that? Like I have to walk them through it just a little bit, but yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, especially in the age of social media. Everybody understands what you're trying to do now. So
Mhm.
I agree. The phones are ridiculously good now for what they are, like for how compact, how small, how good the battery is, the type of footage that they take. If it's daytime stuff, use the phone. Use the phone
Mhm.
for everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty ridiculous. I feel the same way as far as like getting done with a hunt and realizing that that's why I do a lot of voiceover stuff, is because I'm so rarely in it. Because do you know how stupid you feel setting up that type of thing and then like on a group of people and then just walking
Mhm.
in front of the camera and being like, hey, just sit here. We're just gonna
Just
sit
pretend
here.
like it's yeah.
It's gonna be fine. Don't worry about no, don't worry about that. Just
Yeah.
and they're like, are you not? Yeah, no, I want to be in it. Yeah, it feels really stupid. So that's why it takes practice though. That's the other thing,
Mhm.
is it feels progressively less stupid as you do it, because you understand that to tell the story properly, you have to be in it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's just like anything else. That
It's
was
like
why I
it's
started
like,
the
hold on,
YouTube
guys.
channel.
I'm
I
gonna
learned
run
that
up
stuff.
there. I'm gonna run up there, set the camera down. Okay, no, wait. Okay, now we're gonna go. Like, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I can.
Yep.
And people don't think about that when they're watching a really good film that's been put together. Like, my buddies over at Argali. I don't know if you've ever watched any of their stuff. Um,
I'd
you
have to
should go
see.
check out.
I'm really bad with names, but
Mm,
if you showed me one of their videos, I could probably
mm.
tell you if I'd watched it. Where are they
So,
out of?
well, Argali is they're a shelter slash tent company that also does a
Okay.
bunch of other lightweight backcountry gear, knives, trekking poles, and stuff. And I didn't even realize they had a YouTube channel, but they started as a media company. And then they were like, well, I don't like this about the gear and I don't like this about this gear. So then they were like, well, we're going to make our own,
Got
which I
it.
think is awesome when people don't
Yeah,
just
for
sit back
sure.
and complain about it. They actually go out and do something. But like their tent, they have the shelter option. So you can make it a hot tent or you can put a nest inside of it if you want an actual like nest with mesh and a floor. So it's a
Yeah,
pretty cool
cool.
setup. But anyway, I was watching one of their because after I recorded with him, the owner, and then he told me that they were a media company. I was like, well, my mind's blown. And I went back and they've got some amazing footage of Alaska hunts and blacktail and all of this other stuff. And they just put one out about elk that got me so excited for September. I'm like,
Nice.
you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it takes a lot of footage. And then you've got the other, I guess, the other end where another one of my friends, she left an SD card up on the mountain.
Ugh.
And it was like 4 days of their 7 day hunt.
Oh,
And I was like, oh man, you're never finding that. Like, that's just
no.
not.
Somebody may find it at some point though, which would be really
Uh-huh.
cool. But yeah, like, yeah, yeah. I in one of my Utah hunts that I did solo, I wanted to kind of shoot it documentary style, so it was kind of like just keep the camera rolling. So I brought an insane amount of batteries, and everything was so heavy I literally took one of my black plastic bags, put all the batteries in one of the bags, left it under a tree, went, did all the hunting stuff, went down to the car, like hiked 4 miles out, dropped all my stuff off, went back up to get the other, the batteries and all that crap and go back. Like that. So that was one of those learning experiences where it was like, okay, take care of your SD cards, make sure that you know where those freaking things are. That's the most
Mm-hmm.
important part of it. This little
Yeah,
bitty thing that you just lost 4 days of your hunt for. Oh,
exactly.
oh,
That, and then I've been on a hunt too, or I guess it wasn't a hunt, it was tack, where the guy was getting some footage and his camera died like 5 shots into tack because there was some dual system that he had set up to where they had to both be plugged in correctly to charge or something, and it was like just barely slid out, just barely out of place. And he was like, well, guess we're using our phones. Like, so he's carrying around this big old camera now. It's just dead weight, can't
ah.
use it. But
But that's
it's
the
all
stuff
those
that
little
you
things.
exactly. But you want to learn that at TAC, or you want to
Mhm.
learn that at like a local 3D thing, or that again. That's why I go do stuff. I'll shoot angles of me like shooting and be like, that's a terrible angle. Like that, you should
Mhm.
never use that angle again, or even lighting. Right now, I have a light over here, and I know that the way it shines on my eye, it makes me look like my left eye is a lazy eye because it blasts out the white. But I'm sitting at a table that I can't get the light on the other side. I was like, it's
Mhm.
fine. People are going to think I have a lazy eye.
They're gonna know your phone number now, and you're gonna have a lazy eye.
I'm being way too open on this stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, no, those are all things that I personally didn't want to add because I'm already like, I'm trying to get my mental game down for shooting
Sure.
animals, let alone making sure the angle's right. And then just one other story before we move on from that. My buddy Samong, I don't know if you've ever seen any of his stuff, Samong Outdoors. He does a lot of hunting in Washington, brave soul, going up there, and he knocks down elk and deer. He loves it up there. And he's currently fighting the good fight right there with Washington and all
Yeah.
their politics.
Yikes.
He's doing an awesome job fighting back and trying to get people up and running with that. But anyway, he had an elk hunt that he set the camera up, and then he made the mistake of walking in front of the camera, so it refocused, and then it focused on the tree instead of the elk that's 150 yards that way. And so you just see this brown blur out here, and you see this nice crisp evergreen, and you hear the gunshot, and you see the brown blur go out of frame, and then you hear him come back, and he's like, oh crap. Like,
Oh, crap. See, every time I've ever handed my camera to somebody else, like you're out with a guide or
mhm,
whatever, I did New Zealand a couple months ago, and you can tell that they're just doing this. They're holding this, but then they're talking to you, and
mhm.
they're not. It's like, no, you have to live through the screen. I mean, we could talk for 2 hours on the difficulties of learning how to film
Or
a
that
hunt, which
when you
is
hand them
why,
their phone, you've got their finger like right. They're
yeah,
like, can you
yeah.
not see your fingers in the camera?
No, but imagine handing something to somebody that has like 18 buttons on it, that if you touch one of the buttons, something happens. You're like, don't touch anything. Just hold this and point it at the animal. I've already done all the stuff for you. Yeah. I think one thing that's interesting is like if people draw a big hunt and you want somebody to come film it for you, there are production companies you can pay who will
Mhm.
send guys that know how to stay out of the way and will know how to put a really good hunt video together.
Yep.
And it's probably not as expensive as you think. Like if you draw a sheep hunt, something crazy, like some of these production companies literally be like, all right, yeah, let's figure out a budget to send 2 guys with you and make sure that this is a fantastically captured and you'll have that memory the rest of your life. Like that's not a
Mhm.
thing that you want to go shoot a 120-inch whitetail and pay them to do that. But, for something big, could be
We were
worth it.
already spending 10, 15 grand on the hunt. It's like, it's a couple more grand to get it recorded.
And I can read the comments now. Have a 10 to 15 grand, a couple more thousand. Sons of bitches.
And
Rich
that's
sons
why
of bitches.
I stick with over the counter elk in Utah, and I'm not going sheep hunting right now. But
I
yeah,
get it.
yeah, it's you've been on some amazing hunts. You've gone to New Zealand what, twice or three times now?
Nope. New Zealand was once, but I've gone I've done some amazing hunts, but I got started with the archery stuff like the bigger hunts late. But New Zealand was one of the coolest. I think the coolest hunt that I've honestly done, black bear, is for some reason like black bear being on the ground or being in a blind that's really close to the ground and watching how capable these animals are and
Mm-hmm.
getting to watch them interact and talk to each other and the way they mess with the bait, the way they use the trees, the way they cover the underbrush is by far the coolest hunting experience that I've ever had. And I've done like New Mexico elk in a great unit, New Zealand. I've gotten to do Utah elk solo, Colorado, a bunch of that kind of stuff. But to me, I think bear, just, I don't know what it was, man. There was just something that was so freaking cool about being that close to an animal that could potentially come grab your foot and pull it off.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah. And you
why.
killed a monster with Dan, didn't you? You had a
I
big old
killed a
black.
baby. I killed a little. Shut your mouth. It looked big when it was standing
It
next
did.
to the barrel, but you
Yeah.
know why? It's because that barrel was a 22-gallon barrel or a 22 and a half gallon barrel. So it literally looked like it was barrel sized. I did shoot a 400 pounder up in Canada a few weeks ago, a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't find it.
Mm.
So super bummer about that. But I've already rebooked that hunt for next year. And I plan to spend some time around that site, seeing if I can find something on the
Was that in
ground. But
BC?
it was, we flew into Winnipeg and drove 7 hours north.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
wherever that part of Canada is, we basically drove until the roads were gone and then kept driving. Yeah, it was pretty amazing, like how wild it is. And they literally were like, you can keep driving 12 more hours north if you want to. And I said, what is there? They said more logging roads and the fishing just gets better. So
Wow.
yeah, it was nuts. But man,
Yeah, we
yeah,
need to
and I think
annex Canada. We need to bring them into the at least the western portion of Canada. The eastern
that'd be fine.
they can stay Canada.
We got some stuff we would trade them, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm with you
Yeah,
on
I've got
that
some
one.
buddies up there. I've got a buddy that lives in British Columbia, and some of the stuff that he shows me, his just normal hikes that he goes on with his kids. I'm like, wow, like I love Utah, and that's why I stayed here instead of going back to North Carolina. But man, some of the stuff that they
Yeah.
have up there is just, I mean, it's outstanding.
Yeah. That's one of the
So
disappointing things about Tennessee. Like,
hmm,
we got whitetail. Some of the whitetail are good, but overall, like, we don't have any other big game animals really. It's
you got country
fine.
music?
Yeah. Yep. I can listen to that anywhere. I mean, it is fun to go. It is fun to go out and watch it. I mean, I like Nashville for living, and obviously for the real
Yeah.
estate investing stuff, it's been kick ass. But that's one of the reasons we just bought 42 acres out in Colorado so that we had a place to go. Kind of, here's the jumping off point in the future. If I want to go hunt out here, that's the spot to go from.
That's cool.
So,
That's really cool.
yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've never personally killed a black bear, so I'm just giving you crap for that monster that you killed with Dan, because I love the the monster.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot more experience under your belt than a lot of people. How long have you been in archery hunting?
So I got a bow when I was 15, but I didn't kill anything with a bow until I was in my early 30s. So
Okay.
I grew up in Colorado. My dad was an accountant. So we would basically go on occasion, but it was gun hunting all growing up. And then my grandparents on both sides were in Texas and Arkansas, and we would hunt when we were down there. But it was typical, just kind of like wake up at 4 a.m, go sit by the tires in the middle of the field with gun, freezing your ass off. You'd see a deer, you'd shoot the deer, that kind of thing. But I think that I really got enamored with the bow when I bought 25 acres in Davidson County, which is Nashville, about 10 minutes north of downtown. So like super close to downtown. And I knew that rifle hunting wasn't going to be like really sustainable there. So that's when I really kind of dove back into the archery stuff and said, okay, let's go deep in this, because I can shoot the bow every day here, get good with it, and I can hunt. And took some good whitetail off that land there, filled the freezer with does almost every year. And then really got to kind of kick it up a notch in the last probably 6 years, was getting to start going out west and being a little bit more intentional, applying for tags, making sure that I'm starting to accumulate points, which I've been terrible at, but being willing to trade some dollars for experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's And there's, I guess there's a lot to be said about putting experience behind what you're doing. You know, you what I've noticed too is that you really like to learn. You're not very set in your ways. You've gone everything from light arrows to heavy arrows to in between to Valkyrie setup to super like crazy expensive arrow setups, which um, I don't blame you. They're fun to put together, but it's hard to lose an arrow like that as well
Sure.
because you're like, oh man, that stings a little bit.
Yep.
But you know I guess what sparked your interest in tinkering so much? Why do you enjoy doing that? Because I'm along the same boat, but I kind of want to know what keeps you wanting to tinker.
Man, that's a really interesting question because I don't know what the motivation behind it is other than like I think that I felt like my understanding of archery is when it comes to like lethality, I felt like I was really limited. Like, why would I choose this broadhead over this broadhead or this
Mm,
arrow over this arrow? With bows, they're all delivering the arrow relatively similarly. Like, obviously, there's some speed difference, but with the arrow in particular, and broadheads, and then vane configurations, and then going down the kind of rabbit hole of Ashby and the weight stuff, which this is a good topic to talk about now because John Dudley obviously has been going on this like arrow tirade. Basically, he's let Troy Fowler, the ranch fairy, just kind of slowly build up this following of people, and then John Dudley's coming in here like a bowling ball and just mowing people over. Like it's
yep.
very funny. But I mean,
I,
I went down the heavy arrow range, the heavy arrow, kind of path because it made sense to me. A light arrow, I bounced an arrow off a pig with a mechanical. I didn't bounce it.
mm,
It's just it. I hit 60 yards, watch the pig run off, arrow pops out, and I was like, "That's weird. I feel like this should go through the pig." So
mhm,
that was not to mimic Troy's story, but that was kind of Troy's story as well. Was why am I having a hard time killing this stuff? So then it was okay. Switch to fixed blade heads. How does that look? Switch to more expensive arrows. How does that look? And then really reading the Ashby stuff, I found it super interesting. And I started messing around doing experiments on my channel, just with me learning. But
mhm.
what was interesting is I went up to 615 grains. And one year I took an elk at 85 yards with a 615 grain arrow. I took an axis at 110. Now,
Wow.
that's aggressive. Um, yeah.
You
But
have
you know what the funny thing is, that's what people think, but it really didn't feel that way. So,
mhm,
and I was actually with Troy when I took the Axis at that distance. Troy was cameraing for me on that trip. He came out and was very kind to come hang out that trip. So I killed an armadillo and I killed a whitetail, and I killed it all four of those animals with the same exact arrow. So like we talk about the money that you're spending on the arrow. That literally was, I just kept resharpening the broadhead and rocking and
mhm,
rolling. But what I've done since then is, okay, 615 grains got it done. I literally passed through every single thing that I shot. So now let's back it down and let's figure out when we stop getting the type of penetration that we want to get. So right now I'm at 460 grains, 460 down from 615. So my arrow is pushing the 300 feet per second mark. And with the Iron Will single bevel 125 solid, the Victory Rip TKOs, and the DCA Super Saber vanes, I put it through the meaty part of a 700-pound stag. So front of the shoulder, he was basically straight up the leg on the front
mhm.
side. So all that the hide starts to thicken up there because those guys are fighting with their horns, so they've got
Yeah.
thick hide right there. 5 inches of meat on both sides, and the arrow completely passed through, and then the fletchings hung. So the fletchings actually caught the arrow. So what that tells me is if I'm going for full penetration on both sides with the arrow coming out,
Mhm,
I think I've reached the goal. And then what I found interesting was I took the single bevel wide, same exact arrow up to Canada for the black bear. The black bear was really late. Like, so it was probably 10 minutes left to shooting light. I was wearing a mosquito net over my head, sitting in a ground blind. And I think just when he walked in, we'd been sitting for 7 or 8 hours, and I just was literally like, I had that kind of pants pooping moment where I was like, here it is. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing kicked in my brain. Shoot was behind the shoulder, lower 1/3. Behind the shoulder, lower 1/3. And that's not where you shoot a
Mm-hmm.
black bear. You shoot them in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm screaming my shot process in my face, and the pin is exactly where I was aiming. Like the arrow went exactly where I was. He was quartering to me way more than I thought. The arrow passes through him, hits his back offside leg,
Mm-hmm.
and you can hear it in the video. It smashes that backside leg. I don't. The arrow goes all the way through, hangs on the fletches. He jumps 3 steps, and the arrow pops out. So the exact same scenario with the bear than with the stag. It was just super interesting because I went through the entire body of the bear,
Mm-hmm.
hit the back femur, and then and the arrow hung by the fletches. Maybe it's those DCA, those super sabers, man. Those things
Yeah.
just like it's like a stopper.
Well, now you just need to go with the minis, and you'll be good to go.
That's right.
They won't
That's
hang
right.
up as much.
Yeah, yeah. No,
um,
that's been the other interesting thing about listening to Dudley's archery stuff again is he's pulling people on that have like 30 or 40 years worth of experience, and they've done all these experiments and they've
mm-hmm.
done all this testing, and why are they doing it? And what I've found is the penetration versus arrow flight stuff is a teeter totter. And
Mm-hmm.
so you can get more penetration. Like you said, I built a Valkyrie setup that was 750 grains with 25% FOC. It was amazing. It felt so cool. You were literally putting your finger. Yeah. Yeah. They're outstanding. Like a really, really cool broadhead. And
Oh yeah.
I guess I guess to answer the question about the tinkering, when it comes to broadheads, it's almost like buying a tool that's also a piece of art. For
Mm-hmm.
some reason, that's kind of how I feel about them. Like the precision that it takes to get a chunk of metal honed down that people have been trying to do for since the birth of humanity, starting to use tools like spears and bows and arrows, and looking at all those, the old Clovis points and stuff like that, stuff built out of rock, to what we're
Mm-hmm.
building now. It's all still the same thing. We're building something that's like this big, this wide,
Mm-hmm.
has to fly on the end of a stick. And we're still trying to do it better, which is so cool.
Have you? So I've kind of done the same thing where, and it's funny that you tell your setup because that's pretty much what I'm running this year. Iron wheels are going to be my fixed blades. I've got some other mechanicals that I'll use for different scenarios, but iron wheel fixed blade 125 solids. What insert are you using? Are you using the Victory ones or using MFJJs?
I'm using the Victory ones, and MFJJ gives me crap for not using the titanium ones. So here's what I'm wondering at this point is there's going to be a weak point in the
Mm-hmm.
setup. So if something is weak, which part are you choosing to be weak? And what
Mm-hmm.
I shot a Valkyrie into an elk after he was down. It was kind of the last shot to put him down. And what ended up happening was I think I had the full Valkyrie set up front, and the actual shaft of the arrow, the way it entered in, the shaft broke,
Mm-hmm.
and I lost all penetration. So even with that badass
Mm-hmm.
head, I didn't get a pass through. Now, I mean, it was through his heart, like I was standing 20 yards from him. He was just still rolling around. But what I found interesting was if I'm going to have a failure, what I wonder is the bendability, the flexibility of the aluminum. Does that buy me a little bit more forgiveness where the shaft's not going to break and I'm still going to get a little more penetration? But
Gotcha.
that's just hypothesis. I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I think that given the circumstances of me being able to put, because the iron will, the wide that I put through the bear still spins perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
same with the one that I put through the stag. Both of those spun fine. So,
Yeah.
how much harder are you getting than a 700-pound stag with, I mean, if you hit the bone, yeah, you're gonna bend some
Yeah.
stuff. But no, I think I've been pretty happy with the aluminum outserts, but the titanium I like the idea of because you will bend the aluminum outserts just in regular shooting over time.
Oh
If
yeah.
you buy a dozen, fletch them up, shoot them into your target for 3 months, and go spin them again, half of them won't spin as well as they should.
Yeah, and I've never really had a huge issue with the aluminum, and those are kind of my, I guess, backup. But I'm going to be running the titanium inserts here, and I've sent
Okay.
that into a rock. I need to see if I don't know if it's the light bending it or not. I need to spin it and see if it's bent or not, but I don't think it is. I just pulled it out of the shaft. But have you ever messed around with these broadheads?
No.
Do you know which ones they are?
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of it is though.
The Evolutions.
Okay.
So those I'm messing around with. I'm going to see how they fly. I haven't shot them yet. But they're the mechanicals. They're the ones that they basically make Valkyrie's mechanicals. Because their mechanicals are identical, except for they go down to 125 grains instead of the 180. But
That's a super interesting. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the idea of that bigger out front cunning head should basically relieve some of the issues with penetration that mechanicals typically have. So how do the arms fold, like the actual the deployment?
So let me
How are
see
they
if
held
I've
in
got.
place?
It's like a washer, and that's why I don't want to deploy it yet.
You don't
There's
have
like
to
yeah. There's like a washer in there, so it's tension.
Does it break the washer?
It will rub if you're opening and closing it enough. But I have a Valkyrie one right here. It's the exact same mechanical. They just have the Valkyrie one's got that long pin that goes down, and you could see I've used this one.
What weight are those? Like the 180 grain? Like they're
yeah.
Okay. I like that
so
idea. I actually ought to, because I've still got I think I've got some 250 spines that would still work for that setup that are the Valkyrie. I ought to order some of those.
I mean, you can see I use it on a grouse. This is an expensive arrow for a grouse, but
yeah,
that went into rocks, and you can see the feathers there. But that's how they fold out to like that.
Oh, damn. That's a pretty steep blade angle then.
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's pretty awesome, and you can replace this piece right here, and you can replace these blades as well. But yeah,
how much were those for? Does he sell them in a 3-pack?
I believe he does. I'm not exactly sure. I get them from my bow shop here locally is one of the few that actually sells them in person. They've got a good relationship with Brent up there, so. But yeah, I think he does 3-packs. But yeah, I mean, it's durable. It's crazy durable for a mechanical
for sure.
anyway.
I mean, 180 grains will buy you a whole lot more. It buys you a lot more steel. What's so interesting is like we talked about what drives me to tinker. All of a sudden, I am 100% positive that I'm going to buy those broadheads now. I'm fine with. I just ordered a bunch of Grim Reaper stuff, and that will work good. 125 grains. I've never had an issue with those with my setup, as long as I didn't hit a knuckle.
Right.
But now I'm going to order those because I just want them, and then I'm going to build out a heavier setup, and I'm going to try to shoot a whitetail with them this year. Yeah.
And from my own, like, I guess, hypothesis and experience as well, like if I'm going to shoot a 4mm shaft, I go, either the Iron Will, Aaron Snyder core or the Valkyrie. If I'm going to go 4mm, just because I like the durability. The inserts and stuff seem to not be as durable for 4mm stuff. And so having that center pin run down the middle that's just money. But I wanted the lighter weight. I think I'm running 454 grains with 175 up front. With the RIP TKOs. And I even went to 250 spine.
What's your draw length?
28 or 28 and a half, depending on the bow.
Are you 80 pound?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm 75 pound at 30, just a hair shy of 30. But so you went with a 250 spine. Are you cut pretty tight to your
I'm almost touching metal to the rest. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Rest. There we go. For some reason that word escaped me.
No, I
cut these arrows that I'm shooting right now a little bit long, and going from the 125 to the 150 head. I went past their capacity. So having 200 out front with the length that I cut them on a 300 shaft was really interesting because I thought they'd be fine, and it wasn't terrible, but I could not get that wide to fly past 50 reliably, where I would have trusted it. I mean, I shot the pair at 15 yards, so I knew I wouldn't need it, but yeah, it's super interesting. So you went with a 250 spine. So you even went down further just because you're more point weight.
Yeah, and I tend to go more on the stiffer end just because I'm kind of at that border there, depending on what point weight I use. But 300s were flying great out of the Hoyt I was shooting, but when I went to the PSE, obviously cams are different, things like that. But it required, I wasn't getting a good tear at all with any of my 300s, and so with the rips, which is great about the rip, so I can shoot a 300 spine 4 millimeters, so the VAPS, and it's fine. It's got a thicker wall. I imagine it's a little bit stiffer. But with the rips, you only gain, I think it's 0.1 grains per inch if you go down to 250 from a 300.
Point
So
one?
yeah, it's only 0.1. You can look it
Dang,
up.
that's crazy. I
That's
remember
why I
that it
was
was,
okay.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's super interesting. Then why? I mean, did you try? John had one of his videos where he shot basically a group. Then
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if he switched points out to lighten them up or if he just backed the limbs out. And then he shot essentially making his poundage less. And then he did
Mm-hmm.
one where he essentially made his poundage more. Have you ever messed around with that?
I haven't. I've just kept it maxed out. Yeah.
So I bought some 100 grain new points, and I've been shooting my 100 grains versus the 125s, and I'm getting no real discernible difference in impact downrange at 60. So it may just be that I just can't outshoot it. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just me still just being as wobbly as ever.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting experiment that he was doing as far as just something that you can do for relatively cheap.
Yeah.
Like to test the spine of your arrow to see if you like the idea of more point weight. So let's say you go up to 200 and all of a sudden your groups start to open up a little bit more, maybe back your limbs down a little bit to lower your
Mm-hmm.
poundage and see if you're tightening those groups up. And then in
Yep.
a worst case scenario, you just tighten your bolts back down.
Yeah. And he was also recommending, well, he was talking about that as well, where it was, you got to worry about knock fit if you're backing your limb bolts out like 4 or 5 pounds, because it lessens the tension on the string, which in turn loosens the knock fit a little bit. Or I guess it would make it more clunky, I guess, in the
Yeah,
knock fit. So
it makes it so
yeah,
when you're pulling it back, your arrow's raising off the rest and getting that
yeah,
pinch.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's
that's one of the most frustrating things. Have you ever dealt with that? Been trying to tune
mm-mm.
something and not realize that you were getting knock pinch?
I'm blessed to have, so Wild Arrow, I'm sure you've heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're my bow shop. I'm 10
Oh,
minutes from
nice,
them. And
nice.
so I have like, I am handicapped if they go, like if they all died today, I'd be like, well, frick, I got to start over now. Like,
I got to learn all
cause
this stuff for myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like later today, I go up there and help them out every once in a while just cause they work on my bows, but they're awesome dudes, wealth of knowledge. It's awesome to even just go scouting with them. The owner's actually he drew a sheep tag here in Utah, and he's going to do it with a bow this year. So
Nice,
that's gonna be
dude.
awesome. But
That's
yeah,
great.
I don't really do a lot of my own tuning. There's very few things that I do. Like I know how to move a rest, like if my broadheads are hitting a little off, etc. But for the most part, when my bow comes out of that shop, it's pretty well taken care of. So
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. If somebody else is checking your tune for you to then be able to pick it up and make sure that you're shooting it similar to them. But
Mm,
like some guys, especially people that are newer, they'll say the shop did it for me. And then they pick the bow up and they immediately go
mhm.
like
Yeah.
this. They,
Well,
or
when I
they have,
say that, I'm in the back with them and I'm doing like I'm
oh,
hands on
okay,
my
good,
bow
good,
with
good, good.
them. Yeah, but
Yeah,
they're the ones checking my stuff. So I shoot it through paper. I take it out to 20, like all of that stuff is me
nice.
shooting it. But I do agree with you. That's always kind of blown me away where Dudley says if he's building a bow for someone, he builds it and sights it in out to 100 yards. And actually I recorded with him a couple days ago.
Oh,
Stud. I
cool.
mean, he's just an awesome guy. But he was saying he's got shoulder issues because he'll build these like 80, 90 pound bows for Joe Rogan. And his arms are, 28-inch draw versus Dudley's like 31. So he's all scrunched in. And he's like, even just that movement right there, like messes with his shoulder. He's like, I'm having shoulder issues again because now I'm like dealing with, short draws. Uh, but yeah, I don't know how he does it. And I don't know how people can get their bows tuned. And then
Right.
but my theory on that, I guess, is that it's good enough that the people that are shooting the bow are not really going to notice a difference, because their skill level is not there.
Yeah. Or you're like Rogan and he probably gets it and then he can tweak it the rest of the way. So maybe he gets it and Dudley's like, hey, shoot this through paper, try XYZ and make sure that you're good to go. Because at this point, Rogan does seem like he's good enough and he has a deep enough knowledge. I'd be really interested to hear another podcast with them where they really dive into the like technique of archery and the technical knowledge that Rogan's gained over, not that long a time doing it. Cause I mean, he's drilled some stuff at some pretty decent distances and you can tell he's super passionate about it.
Yeah, no, he definitely absolutely loves it. And he's such a good voice for archery in general, because you wouldn't look at him and think, coming from California, that he's into hunting and all this stuff. But when he talks about it, he gets real passionate about it, and he's very knowledgeable. Like you can tell he's one of those people that's like, I may not be an expert, but I'm going to know as much as I can know about it, and then here's my level of experience as well to go with it. So he seems like a really good dude.
It can't hurt to have the meat eater guys as friends, Dudley and all these other people that can basically be like, all right, hey, we're going to go to this kick-ass ranch in California and we're going to go over here in Utah and you just need to come and we'll get
just show up. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. We need to see if we can get him out to one of the TAC events. I'm sure Dudley's talked to him about it. That would be that would probably be he'd have to wear like a football mask so nobody knew who he was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but no, I definitely, along with the tinkering stuff and all that, I think to be honest with you, my bow shop, I mess with my buddy Mark, is the bow tech that I work with. And I'm like, are you sick of me yet? Cause I'll come in with like a new rest or something. And then I'm like, hey, I want to get this put on. And I'm like, and then I kind of feel bad. I'm like, look, I'm going to put it on. I need you to kind of watch me every couple minutes or so and make sure I'm not going to cut a string or something. But, but
that's cool. That's where you want to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't have a spot right now for a bow press and all that, but I'll get there eventually. I have my own room.
Yeah. But then you have to work on your own stuff though.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem, is then you don't get the community of getting to go hang out. And the other thing that's nice about going to a shop, they get new stuff in and you get to see what the new stuff is. Why is this better than the last thing? Like, this is kind of cool. Why do you have this? Yeah. I don't know.
I bring them stuff sometimes, like they don't carry the dialed sight. So I brought that in, and then it was weird because it was about the same time that they launched. And so then they started getting a bunch of them in. They're like, oh, like we don't carry this sight. So they're all figuring it out. And so it's cool to go in and hear their points of view. Because again, they're all very knowledgeable. Some of them are target archers that go out to Vegas and do really well.
Nice.
And so hearing all of that wealth of knowledge, and they, they give each other crap for, some of them shoot Bowtech, some of them shoot Hoyt, which is like right here in our backyard, and others shoot Prime. And then I bring the PSE in, and they don't carry PSE right now, but they're like talking crap. So it's a great community. It's such a good little cool little knit community right there in the bow shop.
Yeah. What do you think about the dialed sight? Is that what you're using on a regular basis on yours?
Yeah. So that's going to be my hunting setup right there. The Mach 34. And then I've got the dialed sight. I've got the 3-pin in a 10th configuration. And I really like it. I will be, and I mean, this is going to come out in a couple weeks, so I'll probably already have a review out on it. But the new UltraView sight is going to go on my Omen with the pick rail mount. So that one I'm going to mess around with because right now I have it on my Omen with the dialed rail and then the 4-pin UltraView housing, and then I spray painted it black because I didn't want it to be all shiny. But
got it.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, but it's really interesting. I'm really cool. Excited to see it hands on and figure out how that one works. I like what I've seen in videos, but anyway, the dialed sight. What questions were you?
Oh, I bought one. I'm really like I'm super excited for anybody that's coming into the space and bringing something new and something slightly innovative. But I'm excited about the Gen 2 version of that because I feel like they've learned a ton. I had it on my that's what I use to bring up to Canada too. The only issue that I've had with it is when I got back home, there's 2 spots on it that are loose. So like, because I flew with it and have it packed where it is, in everything. And that's been my biggest concern with that sight is the durability.
Is it
So
the windage bar?
the scope housing wobbles around, and then the actual dial does a little bit of
Oh,
loosey goosey
okay.
there.
When
Yeah.
did you buy it?
I'd have to go back and remember. I didn't get like one of the super early ones when they were rolling out. So I'm not trying to crap on the dial
Oh, no,
people
not at
either.
all.
It's not that. It's that I'm excited about the Gen 2 version. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the
So,
UltraView guys reached out and they were like, "Hey man, we want to send you this." And I was like, "Oh, that'd be amazing." And then I just got a thing for tracking. I was like, "Holy crap, they're
yeah,
sending me a thing. That's
yeah,
cool."
yeah.
So,
It's gonna be awesome.
yeah.
Which mount did you go with? The standard or
Dude, they
the
just sent me something. I have no idea what's
Okay.
coming.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, they're
I'm
good
sure I've got
guys.
a bow I'll fit it on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
No, they're
it's like I said, I'm excited for anybody who wants to come into the space and think that they have something innovative. What you're doing is challenging yourself to come up with an innovative idea and then mass produce it,
mm,
package
mhm.
it, market it, and sell it. Like it's a super difficult task to do,
Yep.
especially in archery, because it's not like there's a crazy ton. It's not like there's 10 million archers that are going to come buy your stuff. Like probably some of the best companies, are not breaking $100 million in the
Mm,
industry. Like the biggest,
yeah.
like Easton. I'd be really curious to know Easton, Matthews, Hoyt, all those big guys that are putting up really big numbers. They're small potatoes. Like there's probably
Mhm.
sex toy companies that sell way more, volume stuff than there
Yep. Yep.
are on
Exactly.
those. So, yeah, I respect anybody coming into the space and doing their thing, but I am excited. The Dialed guys are another group that they had a production company beforehand. Like I was
Mm.
talking to, I can't remember the dude's name. I was talking to him and he was like, "Yeah, man, we've got a bunch of red cameras just sitting around here." I was like, "But use them. Use them. They're amazing. Put out as
Yeah.
much good content as you can." And yeah, they dropped some really good videos around
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Dial
Captured
stuff.
Creative and yeah, they've got a whole bunch of other companies. But yeah, they so with the dialed site, have you reached out to them about the wobbliness?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I just
So and
continue
that's what
to
I tell to
slightly talk
everyone.
shit about him a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, so Scott is not on social media, and I don't know if you know Scott. He's the one that he's Scooter on all of their goofy videos. Have you seen
That's
some of
funny.
their? Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Scott is kind of he's off social media. And if you saw him, like I always joke with him, like you look like a homeless dude because he's always in flip flops. He's got long hair, he's got a beard, but
Yep.
he knows so much about archery that it just blows my mind anytime I talk to him about it. And he's such a good, humble dude. And so he's been known, and well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Anyway, he will help people. I was gonna say some specific ideas that I know about him, but he will help you if you because like he's been called and people are like, oh, this site sucks. Well, I can't get the yardage out of it I need, blah blah blah. And he's been known to go on FaceTime with people and spend an hour or two getting their whole peep site and everything, like walking them through it. So he's a genuinely good dude. But what I say to anyone that has those wobblies, because I've had a couple of things too where like washers wear out or something like that, just reach out to them. I mean, their customer support is next level and they'll send you whatever you need if it's something that, because they understand that as they've grown, and things have gotten better as far as manufacturing or
Yeah.
pieces that they've had that maybe have gotten loose over time. So I
Yeah.
would just recommend that. And anyone out there listening, I say the same thing to anyone out there. People will you're very kind and you understand the whole manufacturing and growth process. But some people are like, oh, it's a crap site, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm personally not invested in it as far as money. So it's not a personal attack on me. I can listen to you, hear you out, but usually people haven't reached out to them and realized the service they'll get. So that's a big shout out to them, honestly, because when you mix a good customer service with an awesome product, it's hard to find companies like that nowadays. Especially in the archery industry where there's some companies, I feel like they rest on their laurels, to be honest with you. Like they've been around for so long. They know they're the gorilla in the room and they can just sit back and be like, well, that sucks. Like, or their customer service is just okay at best. People want to hear from people. And you went through that.
About Matthews right now? You talking crap about Matthews?
Well, you went through that, and it was pretty cool to see that experience too when you bought all these bows, and then you reached out to him about the video that you were doing. Was it a year or two ago where you bought all the?
Yes, it was. This was the confusing part because the thumbnail that video exploded. I had no idea that. No, I got pissed off phone calls and texts from Instagram messages from all sorts of stuff. That was my first introduction to John Dudley. Was, hey man, this is done. Give me a call. So, yeah. So it was me with the thumbnail. I'm holding a piece of paper and I wrote no PSE on it. So. Yeah. So what ended up happening was I don't have a PSE dealer in Middle Tennessee, and I still don't. No, that's not true. But that's not true. Archery Den picked up PSE. My bad. Archery Den does have them. That's where I bought my. Yeah. Archery Den has them now. We don't have a Bowtech dealer that's close. The nearest Bowtech dealer is an hour and a half from me. So the PSE, what ended up happening was the other place. I almost said their name, and I don't want to. It's a very nice shop, but they do a lot of like kids stuff. So they have a 20-yard range, and that's their main focus. It seems like is league night and with kids. And so I got into it. Like I would go down there and I would shoot, and I bought $400 worth of arrows. I bought, like I was spending money there, and they had one of the early versions of the boat paddle, the mock bows. That's what I call your Mach 34 is the boat paddle. I actually really like that bow. The 34 shoots amazing. That's a great platform.
When I walked into the bow shop, because they don't shoot or they don't own PSEs or sell them there, and I walked in and they just looked at it and they're like, they look like doesn't have any curves. It's like a lady without curves.
No, dude, it shoots great though. Anybody that wants, like, especially in the 34-inch platform, that's a rock solid bow
at 3.7 pounds bare bow. Like that thing it's so light.
Yeah, well, and like the RX-7, the RX-7 Ultra, I think was a 34 or 35-inch axle to axle, but it was over 4 pounds. Like if you're looking for, weight savings, that's for sure. That's like one of the last ones that's 4 pounds left, I think. Well, I don't know. To finish up the PSE thing, we don't have to go into it, but basically it was a shop issue. It was, and you go watch the video, but basically they were trying to charge me $25 to put a D-loop on the bow to let me try it. And I was going to buy the bow, and it was a shop thing, not a PSE thing, but because they were the exclusive retailer of PSE and I was going to have to go back to them for service, I was like, nah, I'm just not going to do it. When I have other options and I can go buy Hoyt, I can go buy Bowtech, drive a little bit. I can go buy Matthews.
I bet they got a phone call from PSE after you talked to Dudley about it.
Dealer. They lost the ability to sell them. Yeah. So that was why Archery Den picked them up. Now I don't know if they can still sell their like target line, but I know that their hunting line they lost that. But it, like, no offense, but that's what should have happened, in my opinion. Like, if you're PSE, why would you not want to sell the most bows possible? You would, and you would want the best customer service possible. And that wasn't what that shop had. And I probably that was also before I kind of understood the potential damage that having a voice on YouTube could do. Like, so I had issues with the Bowtech Revolt X. And I made a lot of videos on that thing because I tried my freaking hardest to figure that bow out. And I posted that bow and had lots of people that were like, I was looking at this and I'm not going to get it now. And Bowtech called me and they were like, hey, what's going on? We need to figure this thing out. Was this a problem with your bow? And it wasn't. I don't know nobody could figure it out. But that bow eventually.
Did you get your phone number off of Instagram? Is that what happened? They all started.
They messaged me. I was literally on a cruise, and I think I dropped the Bowtech video and the no PSE one really close, and I got off the cruise and got cell phone signal, and I had a message from Bowtech and from John Dudley, and I was like, oh no, I've made everyone mad. But it was interesting. Like I don't know. I've definitely tried to like take the voice. Like I'm small, I'm small. I just hit the 20,000 mark on YouTube. So
that's impressive.
But for a channel, that's still really small, but there's still an impact. So I try to be, I'm trying to weigh everything and be measured and also be
Well,
encouraging.
let me pause you on that though. Think about how many people does it take to fill up a stadium?
It
I think
depends
it's
on
like,
how big the stadium
yeah,
is.
I guess. Okay. So a stadium full of like 5,000 people, right? Say you go to a concert and there's 5,000 people there.
We went
You
to
were
Incubus
four.
the other night,
Uh-huh.
7,500 people in one area. So 7,500.
Yeah. Okay.
And I kind of had that thought. Like I was like, oh, I've
Yeah.
got like
When you
over
see it in
two
person,
times the
like it's
people.
crazy how people you can sit there and be like, okay, I've got even people with 1,000 followers. Like, oh, I just barely hit 1,000. I'm like, okay, but think about if you were standing in front of 1,000 people.
1,000
A
people.
thousand people will hear what you say or see your picture. That is a crap ton of people. So 20,000 on YouTube. It's like you were almost 3 times the amount of that Incubus concert is how many people watch your stuff, right? Or at least are
That is
subscribed to
so
you.
crazy to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like
Yeah.
that's why whenever people say, I'm like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. If you're comparing yourself to like Rogan, yeah,
Right.
that's small. But like
Yeah.
in all reality, that is a crap ton of people. And I could see why PSE or Bowtech would be like, hey, dude, because that's 10 to 20,000 archers on top of that. Like to think about how big
Right.
the archery or how small the archery community is. 20,000 of those archery or of those archers are the ones that are watching your stuff. I'm sure there's other people that watch your stuff, but mainly archers,
No, it's
you
mainly
know?
art. I'm
Yeah.
for sure it's mainly archery. I mean, like, yeah, I started a real estate channel to talk more about the real estate stuff. To kind of market our hard money lending company that we're doing. But I recognize that it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make sense. I want to keep the archery stuff a bit separate, and I may still talk about it a hair, but starting the separate channel for the real estate stuff kind of made sense.
Yeah. No, for
And
sure.
it's
But
got
yeah,
50 followers, maybe. I'm up to a whole 50 on there. But it's the
there you
same
go.
thing. If you were standing in a crowd of 50 people talking, 50, that's a
Mm-hmm.
ton of people. It's crazy. It's crazy to
Mm-hmm.
think about. And it's only been in the last like 30 years that a normal person's voice could be amplified like this. It's not even
Yeah.
30. I mean, YouTube started in 2006, maybe
Mm-hmm.
2010, somewhere around there. All the social media stuff that popped up in the early 2000s. So let's say 20 years. The last 20 years that you didn't have to be like on TV to have
Mm-hmm.
reach. That is really amazing.
Yeah.
Like you
Right.
with what you're
It's
doing.
crazy.
It's nuts.
It really is. And like I look at it, and I'm sitting here, when you make goals for whether it be views or downloads, whatever it is, and I'm looking, I'm like, man, like I was wanting, I'm wanted to hit numbers, but then when you take a step back and you're like, that's how many times that podcast has been listened to and downloaded. And if I was standing in a room with people and I said that podcast over again in person, it blows my mind. And so it's easy to disconnect. It's just like swiping a credit card versus paying in cash.
Yeah.
Seeing numbers on a screen is different than seeing 7,500 people in person.
Yeah.
um you know and so that's crazy. And then it's funny, I saw you post the Incubus thing, and that was right after I learned what an Incubus was. Do you know what an Incubus is?
Yes.
Oh my
My
gosh.
wife,
And so,
my wife reminded me. They started that band when they were 15 years old.
oh, that's probably
So
why. That's probably
that's of course why they did it. Tell the people what an incubus is.
so so oh man, this is going down. So the reason I found out was because at TAC, and I don't know if you know much about First Form, but the First Form guys are just, I mean, it's a great group of individuals. Like you feel like you're with your high school buddies again, but actually accomplishing things, not just hanging out playing video games. And so we're sitting there in this, we had an Airbnb for TAC, and the media crew's in there. They had just showed up. They're like delirious from their travel. It was really late at night. And one of the guys, I guess he's scared of ghosts. And so he sits down on the couch and he hears something, supposedly. No one else really heard it. And anyone that, is listening to this, go watch the video on YouTube of First Form Outdoors at TAC.
I'll have
It's
to watch it.
hilarious. But he goes, he's like, man, did you guys hear that? And he like jumps up. He's like, legit, none of this is staged. Like, we're all talking about the next day, stuff we're gonna do. And he's like, what the crap? And so then everyone's now messing with him because we realize he's genuinely scared. and so, and the camera guy's catching every second of it. And then of course the camera guy goes on this rant about, well, you could go to sleep, but what if that ghost is an incubus? And I'm like, a what? Like, no one else knew in the room. No one else knew except for the camera guy. And he like goes on this long, detailed explanation of what it is. But yeah, you can go look it up. Basically, it's a ghost that penetrates you while you're sleeping. I mean, that's really what an incubus is. And so we go down this rabbit hole of what that is. And so anyway, I had learned what that was. And then you posted that and I was like, there's really a band out there about ghosts.
It sounds so much worse when you say it the way you said it. It's a
You just
ghost
have to
that
do it that way.
penetrates you while you sleep. You could have said makes love to
No,
you
there's
in a
no.
non-consensual way.
So a rapey ghost, basically.
A rapey ghost.
So you went to the concert of Rapey Ghost. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Dude, and it was so good. That's like my childhood, that's like my favorite band from childhood. And then Jocelyn and I are going back to Smashing Pumpkins on the 8th. Yeah, it's just, I told Jocelyn, I was like, I'm just going to have like a 15-year-old Brandon boner for the next, month based on, I'm going to have a 15-year-old incubus. Yeah.
God. That is hilarious. It's funny that you know what that is, but yeah,
because they're my favorite band.
Yeah, you looked it up. You're like, what?
Yeah, literally, yeah. So briefly, real quick, tell me more about the first Phorm stuff, because I'm curious about this, because every time I've seen them, it's like all the hot girls, but that are doing stuff.
Yeah,
that not just like hot girls for the sake of hot girls, but the hot girls that are doing stuff. It's first Phorm.
Yep. So basically, I mean, I was introduced to first Phorm. Have you heard of Andy Frisella?
I'm terrible with names, so I don't know.
So he's the one that did the MFCEO project, Real AF podcast.
Okay.
Any of this? Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So he's the host of that. And so Andy Frisella, I started listening to the MFCEO project years ago. And my wife was like, look, you're going to like this guy, because I've kind of got like entrepreneurial things, but I'm not like full into it right now, but I was learning at the time. And she was like, hey, you should listen to this guy. He's rough on the ears for a little bit. She's like, he's not really my style, but I think you would like him. I said, okay. So I listened to the first podcast of the MFCEO project. And back then it was all about like business and, things like that. And he really is. He curses a lot and things like that. And nothing against cursing, but it's like every other word. And so I was like,
oh, okay, that's a lot.
Okay. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, but he's got a lot of good information. And so then I listened to the second one, and then you start like kind of getting used to that and tuning that out and focusing on the information. He's awesome. Well, then I found out later about first Phorm, because I went to TAC for the first time, and there was a workout up north. And at the time, I knew the guys at Mountain Ops. I mean, they're like 15 minutes away from me north of here. And so we were doing a workout together, and one of the people that showed up was wearing a first Phorm shirt. And I had heard of them, but to me, they came off as more of like kind of a gym rat. Like, I don't dress in bright colors and stuff like that. I go to the gym 6 days a week unless I'm on the mountain, but I don't dress that way. That's not really my lifestyle per se. And so I didn't really pay attention to the brand until I met her. And then she, during that workout, she was crushing it. And then the fact that she mentioned that they were looking at getting into the outdoors industry. And that's when my ears perked up. I was like,
got it.
First Phorm community, which it really is like there's a supplement company, but it is the community of individuals that is in that. Like, they have built loyalty is where they built it from the ground up. It's not a marketing company by any means. And so anyway, I started looking into it, found First Phorm Outdoors page had like 400 followers on it at the time. And I jumped on board. I was like,
got it.
All right. Once I found out this was a real page and I found out who was in charge of it at headquarters, I interviewed and started working for him about 2.5 years ago. And since then, It's just exploded in the outdoors industry.
Yeah.
And at TAC, it was so much fun. And I'll tell you, if you've got a chance, go watch that video of us at TAC. And like, there's some stupid challenges. Like, they ran up half the mountain and back to see who could win. Like, just stupid crap talk the entire time. It probably had a lot to do with a lot of energy drinks going around. But basically what First Phorm is a great community of individuals that genuinely want you to get better, basically live a happier, healthier, more successful life, like what I talk about. So our everything just kind of lined up perfectly. Mix that with the outdoors. There you go. So,
All right, send me my $1,000 now for me introducing the first Phorm, letting you pitch it in our podcast. No, I'm just
right.
no,
Exactly.
I've been out of working out is by far the thing that I'm the least good at in my
Mm,
life. Like I really struggle with sticking to a diet and sticking to working out. So I've recently started kind of real estate, kind of like a little real estate mastermind with some guys that are in really good shape,
mhm.
and they're holding me accountable. And so I
There you
ordered
go.
a bunch of weight stuff for the house, and it's really interesting. Like knowing that I'm going to be on a call with them later will make me go work out because I don't want the shame of saying, no, today was another
Mhm.
day when I didn't do it. But
Yep.
it's so interesting. Just like I can make money. I can grind day after day after day. I can start businesses. I can make money. I can set long-term goals. But you put me next to a Whataburger and I'm going to go eat a freaking triple cheeseburger from Whataburger. And I
Well,
shouldn't.
and that's the other thing too, is that I love, especially about the first Phorm outdoor side of things. You mentioned it, like it's always, it's not just posing, it's not just pretty girls. Like they're legitimately. I mean, we did every time I've done a workout at headquarters, someone pukes, if not multiple people. Like it's everyone just. I mean, it's a killer workout, and what it does is that builds that community again because it's a suck fest, but you jump in and as a team workout, you kind of help each other, kind of deal. So it's a really great family and community to be a part of. But they're genuine and they're doing stuff, and I've known of situations happening where they recognize that maybe an athlete or something was acting entitled with their title, and they were basically fired and cut from the contract because they weren't living up to the standard of being real, actually using the products, actually working out, not just getting surgeries to look good,
Ooh, that's
and things
interesting.
like that.
Okay.
Right. So it's very much about being real. And again, going back to Andy, the Real AF podcast. I mean, he is my first introduction to Andy. I don't know if I've ever brought this up on a podcast, but I always tell people at headquarters, like, you don't mess with someone's workout, right? And I saw him working out. He had his head down, grinding away. So I just, I didn't want to go up and talk to him. We're in there changing in the locker room, and their locker room, dude, it's like a college football locker room. Like it's immaculate. But anyway, we're in there changing, and you just hear the door pop up and just, and he's like, anybody's dicks out? We're like, what? Like, no, we're good, man.
Should we?
He's
Yes.
like,
Maybe, I don't.
and he goes, no, Emily's coming in to take my pictures. So, for 75 hard,
Yeah.
right? And he's like, I just
Yep.
want to make sure you guys were put away before she comes in. We're just like, okay. I was like, and I go up and shake his hand. You're like, hey, it's nice to meet you. It's been awesome. Yeah. But like, that's just how he is, there's no character. And I love that just about the company. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
mix
No, it
that with
sounds
the
cool.
outdoors.
Like I said, I'll have to look them up because that needs to be the next upgrade in my life. I think is again, I'm kind of coming up with routines for all this stuff and getting rid of certain bad things and implementing certain new good things. So I definitely need to dive down the supplement rabbit hole to help
Yeah.
myself a little bit more. Plus, I start the
Yep.
day with
And
4 cups of coffee, and I'm sure there's probably a better way to
well,
start it.
this is my middle of the day pick me up. So
Yeah, yeah,
get a little
I like
drink. I
it.
don't drink coffee, but I'll drink some caffeine.
I get it.
Yeah, but cool. We've kind of like gone all over the place, and I could talk to you for another couple hours. But what is something that maybe we haven't brought up that you'd like to bring up for the listeners?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think that for me, like a refocus on just going out and shooting every day has brought a renewed kind of joy and enjoyment back to archery. I think for a while I put my bow down and I stopped just going out without a camera, like, and just literally just shooting arrows. And I forgot
Mhm.
how much it influences the entire rest of my life for some reason. Like going out and shooting 50 arrows and being intentional and shooting through a routine, literally it feels like this like grounding force in my life, and there's something that it literally feels like it physiologically does to my brain. So just go out there, freaking shoot some arrows, man, but be focused in your practice, because it's like I said, I forgot the joy and the kind of baseline that it brings me back to every day, just going out and slapping sticks together.
Yep. There you go. I love it. And where can people find you?
Instagram at Brandon McDonald _ archery. And then YouTube, you just search Brandon McDonald. I'm the not black guy who's the NFL player. So there's two of us, two Brandon McDonalds. I'm the white archery dude. Yeah, in case you couldn't tell.
The white archery real estate dude, and he's the black jacked NFL player. Gotcha.
Exactly. He's
So,
like 6'8". Yeah, I'm tall. I'm 6'3",
opposites.
but yeah.
Opposites.
Come on. I'm the fluffy one. I'm the fluffy one.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks again. I really appreciate your time hopping on here, man. I know you've got lots of stuff going on, and thanks so much for that. And
Dude,
for everyone
thanks so
out
much
there
for
listening,
having me. I really appreciate it.
yeah, of course. And everyone out there listening, I'll leave the links down below to his YouTube channel, Instagram, website. And are you still selling Mere Mortal? We didn't even get into that. Are you still selling the Mere Mortal hats?
We're on pause right now. So I had hats and shirts, but the distribution became a problem. So when I basically sold down out of everything, now I have to reset and I have to think through how I want to do it again. Because it kind of, in picking and choosing what I'm going to engage in and how effective I'm trying to be, it felt like I was being rather ineffective. We gave away 7 bows, which is amazing. Like, gave away 7 bows to first responders and military guys. But I wasn't having the connection that I really wanted. And that's why kind of this real estate mastermind, business mastermind thing that is just kind of starting to come up, I think is going to be something that can be really, really impactful at a much deeper level. So
Awesome.
I'm not sure where Mere Mortal is going to go, but I think we'll have a resurgence at some point. I need to kind of revamp. But yeah, for right now, that's where we're at.
Sweet. Well, cool. Guys, I'll leave those links down below. And like I always say, get out, live your life, and love it.